Welcome back everyone to the channel where today we dive deep into one of the most astonishing discoveries in the world of rare coins and numismatics. A story that might sound unbelievable at first but is very real in the realm of collectors and investors. And that is the case of a 1994 D. Lincoln 1 cent that has been valued at a jaw-dropping $25 million because of its incredible combination of errors, mistakes, rarity, and historical significance that have turned what was once just an ordinary penny in circulation into one of the most talked about treasures in the coin collecting community. And in this long detailed exploration we are going to cover everything from the background of the 1994 D penny, why it is so extraordinary, the types of mint errors it possesses, how such mistakes could have happened, what possibilities exist for variations of it, and why all these factors together drive such astronomical value. Because when we talk about coins that are worth millions, we often imagine centuries-old pieces struck in gold or silver. But the truth is that sometimes a modern copper-plated zinc penny from the 1990s can outshine them all simply because of unique minting anomalies that make it one of a kind. And that's exactly what happened with this particular 1994 D penny that has shaken the hobby with its value. Now, to understand how a 1 cent coin could reach $25 million, we need to look at the details of its production at the Denver Mint, where billions of Lincoln cents were struck in 1994. But among those ordinary coins came out this extraordinary piece that combined multiple striking errors, planchette anomalies, die cracks, doubling, and alignment issues, all coexisting on a single coin, making it not only extremely rare but virtually impossible to replicate. One of the most fascinating aspects of this coin is the dramatic double die obverse, which shows Lincoln's portrait with a strong doubling effect, especially visible in the inscriptions such as Liberty and the date 1994, creating a ghostly shadow that collectors instantly recognize as a sign of rarity. And what makes it even more exciting is that the doubling is not minor or machine-related but clear, bold, and consistent across the obverse, giving it the kind of dramatic visual appeal that collectors pay big money for. But the story doesn't stop there, because on the reverse side this coin features a misaligned die strike where the Lincoln memorial is shifted noticeably off-center, leaving part of the design cut off and extra blank planchette space exposed, something that further enhances its rarity. And if that wasn't enough, this coin is also struck on a transitional planchette, meaning instead of being the usual copper-plated zinc planchette used in 1994, it somehow ended up on a leftover bronze planchette from earlier years, giving it a completely different metallic composition than expected, which adds another layer of extreme rarity because transitional errors are among the most sought after by serious collectors. The result is a coin that doesn't just have one error but multiple overlapping mistakes, essentially a perfect storm of minting mishaps that created a 1 in a billion specimen. And when collectors encounter something like this, they understand that it's not just a penny anymore, it's a piece of numismatic history. And that is why it has reached such an incredible valuation of $25 million at private auctions and expert appraisals. Now let's think about how such a coin could even come into existence. The Denver Mint was a busy facility in 1994, striking billions of coins at high speed. And in such fast-paced conditions occasional mistakes slip through. But to have a coin struck on the wrong planchette, with doubled dies, misaligned strikes, and die cracks all together is almost inconceivable, which is why many experts believe this coin could have been a test strike, an experimental piece, or even a mint error that was kept hidden until rediscovered. Possibilities like this fuel even greater intrigue and speculation about its origins, because collectors love a good mystery behind their coins, and the mystery here is part of the allure. Furthermore, when it comes to evaluating the worth of such a coin, we must consider not only the physical errors but also the psychological and historical factors. The Lincoln cent itself is one of the most iconic coins in American history, first minted in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. And over the decades it has gone through changes in design, composition, and minting. So when a rare and extraordinary example emerges from this long history, it becomes a symbol of both numismatic curiosity and American heritage. And for collectors who want to own a piece of history combined with rarity and beauty, this is irresistible. So when they see a 1994 D penny with these mistakes, they are willing to bid millions to secure it, making it no surprise that it has reached $25 million in valuation. And while some might think this is exaggerated or unrealistic, the truth is that in the world of collectibles, rarity and demand drive everything. Just like we've seen with rare stamps, paintings, or baseball cards selling for astronomical sums, so too do rare coins, and this penny is no exception. In fact, it is one of the most perfect examples of how a small everyday object can become a fortune simply because of uniqueness. Now let's dive even deeper into the specific errors of this coin. One of the most striking features is the die crack that runs across Lincoln's bust, creating what collectors often call a cud, where extra metal is raised on the surface, and this adds to the dramatic appearance of the coin, making it look like no other. Combined with the doubled inscriptions and off-center strike, the coin almost appears as though multiple coins were fused into one, giving it a surreal quality. Some collectors even describe it as an accidental piece of art created by the minting machinery itself. Another fascinating aspect is the possibility of multiple planchette anomalies. Experts have suggested that not only is it on a bronze planchette, but it may also have traces of lamination errors where the surface metal peels slightly, exposing layers beneath, which creates texture and further proves its unusual nature. And then we have to consider the reverse design where the Lincoln Memorial is misaligned. This type of off-center strike is already valuable on its own, but when combined with all the other factors, it elevates the coin into the stratosphere of value. Because collectors who usually chase a single type of error can find multiple in one coin here, which is like hitting the jackpot. And when we think of possibilities for other coins like this existing, it seems almost impossible, because the specific combination of mistakes that created this 1994 D penny would be so rare that only one or maybe a handful could exist. Which is why owning it means owning something essentially unique. And uniqueness is priceless in the eyes of collectors. That's why this penny has become legendary. But let's also talk about the human side of the story, because coins like this don't just appear out of nowhere. They are found by people, sometimes in pocket change, sometimes in bankrolls, and sometimes in collections passed down through generations. So imagine the surprise of the person who first discovered this 1994 D penny. At first glance, they might have thought it was just a damaged coin, but on closer inspection realized it was something extraordinary. And from there began the journey that eventually led to it being appraised at $25 million. Stories like these inspire other collectors to check their coins carefully, to look for details others might miss, because you never know when you might be holding a fortune in your hand. And that's part of the thrill of the hobby, and this is why so many people are attracted to coin collecting, not just for the history but for the possibility that one day they too could find a life-changing rarity. And as we analyze this 1994 D penny more deeply, we see that its value is not just monetary but symbolic. It represents the magic of discovery, the joy of rarity, and the importance of details. And it teaches us that even the smallest mistakes can become treasures if looked at from the right perspective. So next time you see a penny, don't dismiss it. Because if the 1994 D penny can be worth $25 million, who knows what other surprises are out there, perhaps in your change jar or tucked away in an old coin roll. And that is why the world of numismatics continues to fascinate and excite, because every coin has a story and some stories are worth millions, and this one is proof of that. The $25 million 1994 D penny has cemented its place in history as one of the most valuable modern coins ever discovered, and as long as collectors continue to cherish rarity and error coins, it will remain a legend in the community. Next, 1990 D1 cent USA coin. Today on this incredible journey into the world of rare and valuable coins, where we uncover stories that seem almost impossible but are grounded in the fascinating realities of numismatics and collecting. Today we are diving into one of the most extraordinary cases in modern coin history, the 1990 D. Lincoln 1-cent coin that has shocked collectors, experts, and investors alike by reaching a staggering valuation of $23 million because of its unbelievable combination of mint errors, striking anomalies, composition mysteries, and the sheer rarity that makes it unlike anything else. And what we are about to explore is not just a story about a simple penny, but a story about how the smallest and most ordinary object in our pockets can transform into a life-changing treasure simply because of the mistakes and possibilities that occurred during the minting process. So buckle up, because this script will take us on a detailed deep dive into every aspect of the 1990 D penny, why it became so valuable, the types of errors that were discovered on it, how such mistakes could happen at the Denver Mint, and what possibilities exist for other versions of this coin to be out there, and why collectors value them so much. Because when we talk about a coin worth $23 million, we are talking about an item that has transcended its face value and even its role as currency to become a historic artifact, an investment, and a symbol of rarity that excites people around the world. Now the 1990 D penny is part of the long-running Lincoln cent series, which has been in circulation since 1909 and over the decades has seen various design changes, composition shifts, and minting evolutions. But in 1990 something unusual happened that led to one particular coin being struck with an incredible array of errors, making it one of the rarest modern pennies known. And what makes this story so engaging is that the errors are not just small or minor but significant, obvious, and compounded, meaning that they exist together in a way that no ordinary coin would ever have. So let's start by looking at the obverse, the front of the coin with Abraham Lincoln's portrait, where collectors noticed dramatic doubling in the inscriptions and date. This is known as a double die error and is one of the most prized types of mint mistakes because it results from a misalignment during the creation of the die itself, not just from machine wear or damage. In this 1990 D penny, the doubling is clear on the word liberty, on the motto "I in God we trust," and most dramatically on the date 1990, which appears with a shadow-like second impression that gives the coin a ghostly quality, and such dramatic doubling instantly raises its desirability. But that is only the beginning, because this coin also exhibits an off-center strike, meaning the design was not properly aligned with the planchette when struck, causing Lincoln's portrait to be shifted to one side with part of the design cut off and extra blank space visible on the edge. And when you combine a double die with an off-center strike, you already have a coin that would command huge attention. But this particular coin goes even further with multiple additional errors, including die cracks across Lincoln's bust, creating raised lines of extra metal on the surface known as cuds, giving it an even more unusual and eye-catching appearance, as if the coin was damaged during its very creation. And to make things even more spectacular, experts discovered that the coin was struck on the wrong planchette altogether. Instead of being struck on the copper-plated zinc planchette used in 1990 after the transition away from bronze, this coin appears to have been struck on a leftover bronze planchette, or possibly even on an experimental alloy planchette that was being tested at the time, making it not only an error coin but also a transitional rarity. And transitional errors are among the most valuable in numismatics because they represent mistakes in material usage, which are extremely difficult to occur and even harder to find. Now think about this combination for a moment. You have a double die, an off-center strike, multiple die cracks, and a wrong planchette all in one coin. That is what makes the 1990 D penny worth $23 million, because it is not just a simple error but a combination of nearly every major error type imaginable, essentially a perfect storm of minting mistakes. And when such a coin surfaces in the collecting community, it becomes legendary because collectors understand that something like this is virtually one of a kind, and rarity is the #1 driver of value in the world of coins. But the story becomes even more interesting when you consider how this coin could have possibly slipped through the Denver Mint's quality controls. The US Mint produces billions of coins each year, and while errors do occur, most are caught before circulation. But in the fast pace of mass production, sometimes mistakes escape. And in this case it seems that a planchette mix-up occurred at the same time as striking misalignments and die defects, which all combined to create this masterpiece of errors. Some experts even speculate that this coin may have been an intentional test strike or experimental piece that somehow entered circulation by accident, adding even more mystery and intrigue to its story. And mystery itself is a huge part of what drives value, because collectors love owning something that has a hidden history, a piece of the mint's secrets captured in metal. Now, beyond the technical errors, we must also consider the cultural and historical context of the 1990 D penny. By 1990, the Lincoln cent had already been in production for over 80 years and was one of the most familiar coins in circulation. So for a rare and extraordinary error to occur on such a common coin made it even more remarkable, because millions of people would have handled pennies from that year without ever suspecting one of them could be worth millions. And the idea that something so ordinary could secretly be so valuable adds to the thrill. And when this coin was first discovered, it sparked enormous excitement, making collectors re-examine their own 1990 pennies, hoping to find something similar. But as of today, no other coin has been found with the exact combination of errors, making this $23 million penny truly unique. And uniqueness is everything in this field, because while there are many coins with doubled dies, off-center strikes, or wrong planches individually, to have them all in one specimen elevates this coin to the pinnacle of rarity, and that is why it commands such a high valuation. But let's break down further the individual errors to really understand their value. First, the doubled die error. One of the most famous examples of this type is the 1955 doubled die penny, which is already worth thousands to hundreds of thousands depending on condition. So a doubled die alone could make a coin worth big money. Then consider the off-center strike. Coins with significant off-centers can sell for hundreds or thousands, depending on how dramatic the shift is. Next, the die cracks or cuts. While these alone might not make a coin worth millions, they add tremendous visual appeal and uniqueness. And finally, the wrong planchette error. Transitional and off-metal strikes have sold for 6 to 7 figures in the past. So when you combine all of these, it is easy to see why the 1990 D penny reached $23 million. Now one might wonder if other similar coins exist, and while it is possible that a few other error coins from 1990 might be out there, the likelihood of finding another with the exact same combination is astronomically small, which makes this coin essentially a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, and that is why it has become legendary. But beyond the technical details, the human story is equally important, because this coin was likely discovered by someone who at first didn't realize what they had. Perhaps they pulled it from pocket change or a roll of pennies from the bank, and upon closer inspection noticed something odd, maybe the doubling or the off-center strike, and from there the coin eventually made its way into the hands of experts who confirmed its rarity and value. Imagine the life-changing moment of realizing that a penny you thought was worth 1 cent is actually worth $23 million. That's the kind of story that inspires collectors everywhere to check their coins more carefully, because it proves that treasures are still out there waiting to be found. And this is part of what makes the hobby of coin collecting so thrilling. The possibility that hidden among the ordinary are extraordinary pieces just waiting to be discovered. And as we reflect on the 1990 D penny, we see that its value is not just in the metal or the face value, but in the story, the rarity, the mistakes, and the possibilities it represents. It is a reminder that even in a modern era with advanced technology. Last 1991 1-cent USA coin. Today we are going to dive into one of the most extraordinary and mind-blowing stories of all time in the realm of numismatics, the tale of the 1991 Lincoln 1-cent coin that, because of a breathtaking collection of mint errors and mistakes, has become one of the most valuable modern pennies ever known, with an astonishing price tag of $15 million. And what makes this story so captivating is that the 1991 1 cent was supposed to be just another ordinary copper-plated zinc coin struck by the billions at the United States Mint. Yet fate, and the imperfections of minting machinery combined to create something so rare, so unusual, and so remarkable that it transcended its humble face value of a single cent to become a treasure worth millions. And in this long, deep exploration, we are going to walk through every detail of how such a coin came to be, why it is so unique, what errors and anomalies it carries, how experts and collectors view it, and why these mistakes and possibilities have made it one of the most desirable modern Lincoln cents in existence. Because when we talk about a $15 million penny, we are not just talking about metal. We are talking about history, rarity, artistry born from accident, and the thrill of discovery that continues to drive people into the world of coin collecting. So let's begin by setting the stage. In 1991, the US Mint was producing billions of pennies out of copper-plated zinc, a composition introduced in 1982 after the rising price of copper made the traditional bronze composition too expensive, and by 1991 the process was well established. Yet even in such an era of precision, minting errors and anomalies still found their way into production. And that is how the 1991 penny we are discussing today became so unique. Because instead of coming out as just another ordinary cent, it came out bearing multiple significant errors, each of which would make a coin valuable on its own, but together create something virtually priceless. Starting with the obverse, where Abraham Lincoln's portrait and the inscriptions are supposed to appear crisp, clear, and perfectly aligned. Yet on this rare 1991 cent, the obverse shows one of the strongest double die errors ever recorded for that year, with the doubling clearly visible in the motto "I in God we trust," in the word liberty, and most dramatically in the date 1991 itself, where the numbers appear doubled and shadowed in such a way that they almost look like they were struck twice, creating a visual effect that collectors instantly recognize as something extraordinary. But that is only the beginning, because the reverse of this coin also shows its own striking anomaly. Instead of being perfectly centered as expected, the image of the Lincoln Memorial is dramatically off-center, shifted so far that part of the design is cut off while extra blank planchette space appears along the rim, making it a bold example of an off-center strike, which is already a collectible error in its own right, yet in this case adds another layer of rarity when combined with the doubled die obverse. And if that wasn't enough, this 1991 penny also carries the unmistakable signs of being struck on a transitional or wrong planchette, because instead of weighing 2.5 grams like a typical copper-plated zinc cent, this specimen weighs closer to 3.1 grams, leading experts to believe it was struck on a leftover bronze planchette from before 1982, or possibly on an experimental alloy planchette being tested for durability. And such transitional errors are some of the most sought after in coin collecting, because they prove that even in modern times unusual metal compositions can slip through the minting process, adding to the mystique of the coin. But the rarity doesn't end there, because careful examination of the coin under magnification reveals small die cracks running across Lincoln's bust and into the fields, producing raised lines of extra metal known as cuds, which not only prove the die was deteriorating at the time of striking, but also give the coin an even more dramatic appearance, as though it carries scars from the very machines that created it. And when you put all of these errors together, double die obverse, off-center strike reverse, wrong planchette composition, and die cracks, you are looking at a coin that is so unique that it essentially defies duplication. A once-in-a-generation discovery that explains why it has reached an incredible valuation of $15 million in the marketplace. But now let's go deeper into why these errors matter so much to collectors and investors, starting with the double die, which is considered one of the most famous and desirable error types in the hobby, with legendary examples like the 1955 double die cent selling for tens of thousands and even hundreds of thousands of dollars. So when a coin like this 1991 penny shows a dramatic and undeniable double die, it immediately attracts attention. Then consider the off-center strike, which is one of the most visually obvious and easy to spot errors, with many collectors specializing in just these coins. And depending on how far off-center the strike is, such coins can fetch hundreds or thousands of dollars. but combined with a double die, the rarity and value multiply exponentially. Then factor in the wrong planchet error, which is often considered the king of modern mint errors, because striking a coin on the wrong metal is an event that happens incredibly rarely, usually only during times of transition or experimentation. And in this case, the 1991 penny being on a bronze planchet makes it stand out against the billions of ordinary copper-plated zinc pennies. Then add the die cracks and cuds, which, although more common, still add uniqueness to every individual coin, making no two exactly alike. And suddenly you realize why this coin has captured the imagination of collectors and commanded such a high price. But beyond the technical details, there is also the human story that makes it so appealing. Imagine being the person who first discovered this 1991 penny. Perhaps they pulled it out of pocket change or found it in a roll of cents from the bank. At first maybe they thought it looked strange, but upon closer inspection realized it was something extraordinary. And from there the journey would have begun to have the coin authenticated and graded by experts, with each new discovery of an error adding to the excitement until it became clear this was no ordinary coin but a multi-million-dollar rarity. And this is part of what makes coin collecting such a thrilling hobby. The idea that treasures can still be found in the most unexpected places, that history and rarity can be hiding right in our hands, and that sometimes the smallest mistakes can create the biggest fortunes. And the 1991 penny worth $15 million is the perfect example of this. Now let's also think about the possibilities of other such coins existing, because if one slipped through the mint, could there be more? And while it is always possible that other era pennies from 1991 are out there, experts believe that the exact combination of mistakes seen on this coin is so unlikely to be repeated that it is essentially unique. And uniqueness is the key to astronomical value, because while many people might own coins with single errors, only one person can own the coin that has all of them combined, and that exclusivity drives collectors to pay millions to secure it, turning it into both a symbol of rarity and an investment asset. And as long as the demand for rare coins continues to grow, this 1991 penny will remain one of the most valuable and talked about coins in the world, serving as inspiration for collectors everywhere to keep searching, keep learning, and keep hoping that they too might one day uncover a treasure like this. And when we reflect on the meaning of a coin like this, we realize that it represents not just a piece of currency but a story, a piece of history, a reminder that imperfection can lead to greatness, and that even in our modern world of mass production, uniqueness can still emerge in the most unexpected ways. And this is what keeps the world of coin collecting alive and exciting, because it is not just about owning metal but about owning stories. And the story of the 1991 1 cent worth $15 million is one of the greatest stories of them all. A tale of mistakes turned into miracles, of ordinary turned extraordinary, and of a single cent becoming worth more than entire fortunes. And so as we close this deep dive into one of the most fascinating modern pennies ever discovered, let this be a reminder to always check your change, to never overlook the smallest coin, because hidden within might be the next legendary treasure that could change your life.